Ladies and gentlemen, Tara Dublin, who does indeed rock,
Hi.
joining us this morning.
Hi.
Long time no
Hi.
see. Um,
Hi, my friend.
Hi.
I almost feel like crying. I haven't seen you in so long.
Yeah, it's a lot, and please don't, because I've
How
done
are
enough of
you?
that. I
I know.
it's funny. The description of it is I feel like it's I just saw Summer and I went and saw with a group of people that she works with. We went and saw the Wizard of Oz at the Sphere. And
Mhm.
it's I recommend it. It's very fun. It's silly and ridiculous and cool and whatever, and it's a thing. But during the tornado sequence, the tornado moves through the space, and so they blow these giant fans on you, and there's like leaves they throw in while you're watching everything go around, and then you get into the
Mhm.
eye of it, and it become all the wind goes away. It's just like a little peripheral wind and noise and stuff, and then it's very clear. You can see the blue sky through the center of it, but you're still in the middle of a tornado, and then it moves on again, and then it's
Mhm.
cows like, okay. It feels
Yeah.
like there's a tornado on my life that's just kind of moving backwards and forwards. So I have these
Yeah.
moments of like blue sky mixed with the tornado part, and there's a depth and a beauty to that moment. That makes sense. If
Mhm.
anything, the
Yeah.
depth and the beauty. I've said many times that I am often panicked by the beauty of life, and I that's what Sometimes I'm brought to tears by just how miraculously cool this whole craziness is, and in those
Right.
moments, it's the moments. It doesn't mean the storm has passed at all, but there's moments of clarity in it that are brought about by the depth and the gratitude of having them in the first place.
Right. Well, grief is a motherfucker, and
Mm-hmm.
it will hit you when you least expect it.
Yep.
And it's a process, and
Mm-hmm.
there's no wrong way to grieve.
Mm-hmm.
You can only hope that you reach the point that Joe Biden often talks about as someone who has experienced,
Yeah.
catastrophic loss personally in his life. He says to people who lose family members that they love, he specifically says this to parents who lose
Lost their
children, but it
children.
is true of it.
Yeah.
Right. But it's true of every human being, because part of being human is losing the humans we love. That there will come a time when the mention of their name brings a smile to your face instead of a tear to your eye. And I may
Mm-hmm.
be paraphrasing, but that is true. And if you're lucky enough to have someone that you loved enough to miss like that's something that you
Mm-hmm.
can carry in your body
Yes.
forever.
That would be
Right?
the depth and the gratitude of this. And wait, hold on.
Right.
Swims with Whales. Thank you so much for saying that. Um my my I'm very aware of it because we had a service for my dad on Friday night, and
Mhm.
so many people that were my age and older were coming up talking about how my dad was like a dad to them,
Yeah.
and replaced the fact that they didn't have this relationship with their own father. So
Uh,
thank you, Pam. Pam's like, so let's not make Hal cry. Exactly. So
let's not
and
do
it,
that. I can
and it,
entertain you with bad. Do you want bad dad stories? Because I have 56 years worth
no,
of that, if you want that.
no.
We can just use my world as entertainment and
Let me
fodder.
let me
We
tell
can
you a
just use
little.
that.
Let me tell you a little something, folks. When my boy was little and he did something bad, I noticed that some kids, because kids will test the waters, and kids have to learn how to lie. There's a certain level of
Right.
polite society that runs on mild lying. You know what I mean? Even if it's
Mhm.
just I'm fine when you're not, so that we can all get on with it because it's not germane to the circumstance and it's none of your goddamn business. So that little lie
Right.
is very complex. It's got a lot of moving parts, takes a lot of
Yeah.
subtlety and the ability to do it. But when you're a kid, you don't know how to do that yet. When you're a toddler, you're like, a dragon flew in the window, took a cookie, and you're like,
Yeah.
all right, you've got chocolate on your face and crumbs on your shirt.
Right.
The dragon flew and took a cookie. Right. So you've got to, on the one hand, you want to make sure the kids tell, as much of the truth as is evolutionarily positive in
Sure.
their life, that won't keep them
Sure.
make them get killed by yelling some uncomfortable truth. Which there is a story that my dad always told about me that almost got us both
Mhm.
killed doing just that in West Virginia. But
Yeah.
when my kid would do some, I would see kids at his school do something terrible, like kick somebody or bite somebody or say something awful or
Mhm.
whatever, and they would be forced to go say I'm sorry. they go tell them you're sorry, and they go sorry, and then they just leave back.
Right.
Just and you knew they
Right.
didn't mean it, and you knew it didn't sink in. So I came up with this thing that I did with Camden, where I said when he would when and if, and it became less and less because he's a very conscientious, beautiful human being now. But when he was little and he would do stuff like that, I would go over them, say sorry, tell them why you are saying sorry, what you are sorry for. And then
Right.
come back and tell me what they said. And so that, the whole conversation, he's responsible for both the person's response and his own honesty in that moment. And he would come back and we go, Grandma said, I kicked her foot and it was mean, but she appreciates me saying I'm sorry and that she loves me, and I would say, thank you for doing that. I love you. And
Right.
that made him, I think that played a huge part in what a conscientious human being he is. So I would say that is a skill anybody can pick up. So one of the things I will say to all the adults out there in the world, that if you are ever going to say I'm sorry to someone, tell them why. And listen deeply to their response. And then relate that whole thing to someone else you care about, who will go, you know what, I got to tell you something. I was really mean to so-and-so, or I did something awful, and I apologize, and I said, I'm sorry for doing this or whatever, and they said this, because that person who is in your life will more than likely respond with, way to be an asshole, but I appreciate you doing that, and that's really great. They'll do the exact same thing I did as an adult, and the world would spin a lot smoother on its axis if people tended to do that.
Well, it's taking responsibility for the way you make another person feel.
Exactly.
And whether you intended to or not, and most of the time you don't, and you don't know what you're doing is, or what you're doing is impacting the way another person feels unless they tell you. And when it comes to human communication, I've said this to my own children, I'm not a mind reader. And if you don't tell me what's going on with you, I can't process what's going on with you. I can't help you. And I can't improve the way I behave if I don't know I've done something that's hurt your feelings.
That was where you
So please tell me.
Yeah, see,
it's all about communication.
Right. See, I think that's where you screwed up. I think it's always better if a mother lets you live under the possibility that she is a mind reader, because that will police you a lot more than your behavior. Your mother has you have to believe your mother has eyes in the back of her head and knows what you're thinking, and could just go like this, and you're like, oh shit, she knows. That's got.
There are times, yes.
Right.
But what I'm saying,
but.
and I know, but one of the things that I taught my sons when they were very young is that I would rather hear the ugliest truth than the most beautiful lie, because when the truth comes out, if you've lied to someone, that hurts them. Your explanation of why you did it will make them trust you less the next time you tell them something. So, and it's always better, and most of the time, the truth is something someone's not going to like.
Right.
There's not a lot of joy in a lot of universal truths, but what it does is it teaches you how to accept the truth and then live with it and make your way in the world despite it.
Well, I'll interrupt in that moment, because cheery as I am, I will say that there is a lot of joy in universal truths. There's in that reality, and I would say that gravity is.
I'm not making blanket statements.
No, I'm saying the gravity that makes you fall off a cliff is also the thing that allows you to fly, because without gravity, there is no flight. There is no expression of flight. You just float away. So
But here's okay. But my point is, you say to your child, "How was school today? Everything good? Everything fine?" And they're like, "Yep," because they don't want to talk about it. And then you find out 3 weeks later they're being bullied, or they did something in class, or they did this, or they didn't bring you a note that you were supposed to. Just the littlest things can blow up into the biggest things if you let it. If you just tell the truth and you just communicate, then something that could be ridiculous doesn't have to blow up. And I don't even know where we're going and why we're doing this. We haven't seen each other in a month.
Well,
let's just get caught up as people. Let's get caught up as you and I. Let's get caught up as Tara and Hal.
Yeah.
And what's going on. And I know that you've been through a thing, and you said
Mm-hmm.
you didn't want to talk about it, and we've been talking about it for 20 minutes already.
Mm.
So
The
we could talk about the fuckery of the politics. We could talk about what's been going on in my life
Mm-hmm.
for the last month. We could talk about music. We
Mm-hmm.
could talk about movies and TV. We could talk about books. I wore my Nerd Halen shirt because I haven't
Thank
seen
you.
you in a month.
I know. I appreciate
So
it.
we could just promote happy shit
Right.
instead of dwelling on unhappy shit. Like, I'm just here. So
Yeah.
what do you want to talk about? What do you want to talk about? Because in
I.
Flexi, if you want to
Yeah.
talk about stuff,
Oh, we have
we
a
can
bunch
just
of
say,
stuff to. We have a bunch of stuff to cover, and the one thing that I
right.
don't think is somebody wrote in the chat just now. Truth hurts, and I would disagree. I think truth chafes. So.
Well, it depends on who. It depends on what it
Yeah.
is, because relating to the
I did too,
world that we
CSL.
live in now,
Yeah.
and the last 10 years, there's a certain segment of this population who has no interest in the truth, regardless of what it is.
Well.
And then there's a certain segment of this population who cares about the truth, regardless of what it is. So, someone's version of the truth, if they like it, that's fine. But if they don't like it, then it's fake news. I don't
Well.
particularly cotton to that. So I'd like to remain where the truth lives, regardless of how uncomfortable it makes
Well,
people feel.
and on that note, I'll see if
Yes.
this should work. Let me see. This guy right here. This where those two trains
I was
collide.
hoping we'd go here.
Yes.
I was hoping we'd get this is a great jumping off point, because there's so many layers to this when someone
Yep.
left Marjorie's cake out in the rain,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of layers here, because this is the same Marjorie Taylor Greene who was at the White House before being sworn into office, helping to plot January 6th.
Mhm.
I don't know how many times I've tweeted the video of her on the White House steps going, "We're going to do this and President Trump, and you better show up and me." And it's all January 6th shit.
Yeah.
It's like, why were you there? And then when she was on trial in Georgia, and they showed her the clip, she's like, "I don't recall when they're saying that." Like, you posted
It doesn't matter. I don't care if you recall.
Exactly.
You did it.
You posted it. This is what you said.
Yeah.
This is what we
That does not
heard.
work.
This is what we have.
Right. And
Does
also
not work, but it
the
worked for her.
the Reagan sponge brain defense does not work if the minutes of the meeting or a recording of the meeting are available. You can't go, "Hey, did you discuss this with the vice president?" "I don't recall."
I don't recall.
Because nobody has tape of it.
So-
Nobody can nobody can bullshit you on it. Now, so I want to address this so we're caught up to speed, because a lot of us who drink from the fire hose of news are, completely
Right.
aware of what's going on. But the firebrand joined at the hip, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who toured around the country, in support of Donald Trump, ran what came in as the initial MAGA wave, and then because by and large she was a QAnon. She believed that there is a cabal of billionaire pedophiles that run the world and have compromise on a bunch of people, and they are the controllers of the deep state, and the deep state are their foot soldiers, and that only the one and only Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein's wingman for 25 years, is uniquely suited. Set a pedo to catch a pedo, I guess, is uniquely suited to bring down this thing, because I had no idea they were hanging out or something like that. That's blind spot in their brain. Well, she was in there and started, oddly enough, along with a lot of the other QAnon linked maggots, started asking for the Epstein files, because that's what her entire personality and her sale to her district was. I may not know shit about the economics of my district. I may not know what the driving force of jobs in my district are. I may not even know that peach trees are not native to Georgia. They were brought there because somebody mispronounced pitch trees, and everybody thought there were going to be peaches, and so people started growing them just because the people kept showing up looking for these peaches. So, which is true. And so,
moving to
what
country. Anyway,
this is a
you say peaches, I
Yeah.
start singing. It's
peach,
fine.
yeah.
Keep going.
So she, as one of the frontline Trump supporters, got kicked out of the congressional, the Caucasian caucus, the Freedom Caucus.
The Freedom Caucus.
Yeah, the freedom. Like they don't charge anything to be a fucking moron in that caucus. And she got kicked out for making the mistake of telling a prettier member of the caucus that she was a bitch on the floor. Not for saying it. If it'd been the other way around, Boebert would have gotten a slap on the wrist because she's materially more attractive than MTG, period. And so that's why they reacted. Seriously, that's why they reacted. One of them could make money as an online hooker and the other couldn't, apparently. So in theory, allegedly. So
right, sure.
Right? Okay. So fast forward to season 2 of Dallas, where who shot Thomas Crooks or some nonsense is the plot line that's been running, and Donald Trump back in office to finish the job of getting rid of the pedo cabal that really runs things. That was he was stopped in his tracks from doing it by a stolen election and Democrats who are protecting whatever. Okay. And then July.
Dumbest.
Yes, I know. It's our plot so far. I feel like an old radio show that was canceled. Like last week on The Bullshitter. So, dun, 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 dun. Boom. Somebody's in your lobby right now.
I only did it for you, Johnny.
Yeah, right.
Anyway.
They're so full of shit, their eyes are brown.
Exactly.
Anyways, so fast forward to the Epstein files are really going to come out. Liz Wheeler and all these dumb fucks got called to the Oval Office, not to DOJ headquarters, to the Oval Office to be handed a binder full of, heavily redacted and previously already released Epstein paperwork so that they could go out and wave it for the cameras and be a prop for this guy to protect himself and hide all the real stuff that he's been hiding all the time. So then, and they get pissed. MAGA noise starts happening, but you got to get rid of it. The MAGA is building, MTG and all these others, siding with Thomas Massey and what the fuck is going on? Why don't we have this stuff? And we'll talk about their belief that, apparently Patel had a part in Charlie Kirk's murder and that kind of stuff. That's how paranoia is metastasizing within MAGA. But it's rumbling. We got to handle this, Trump says. We got to handle this. How do we handle this? Blanket denial and move on. So July 17th or whatever the fuck that was, they released this document on the DOJ website. No signatures, nothing to see here. Dude killed himself. No more evidence and no sign of any co-conspirators. And if you listened quietly that night, and I don't know if you did, if you had a window open, you could hear like popcorn popping in an adjacent room, maggot heads exploding all across the land. As they were all going, what the fuck? As they saw this. And it's been bad ever since. And the boiling up about MTG leaving has as much to do with her own realization, because I guess, you can only bullshit yourself so much. Apparently we've reached the clinical limit. And or she sold this to her constituency that was almost only the reason she's in office. And now that it's not going to happen, and it's abundantly clear that Trump is going to fight this stuff, redact things, hide the stuff because he thinks he can run out the clock, she's just going to leave.
Yeah. With all her money and her pension and her
$20 million that she didn't have when she came in office. Yeah.
Right. The PPP loan she never paid back, her daddy's money, her business money, all of that stuff. So I've been telling her for, 5 years now that she's never getting her pardon. I mean, I've been telling her for years that the second you stand up to him or turn your back or become no longer useful, you're dead to him. And she's experiencing, what so many of us have experienced, which is getting swarmed by the MAGA bullies because they have no sense of loyalty to anybody except Trump. And so she's finding out but the difference between her finding out and anyone else finding out, she's fine. She's going to be fine unless somebody decides to prosecute her after the fact for whatever she might have done. Her money will protect her. She'll probably never run for office again, but instead even get to be more powerful because she'll get a show on her boyfriend's network. where
Right.
she can spew her propaganda and grift people into being scared and to buy shit like
Mm.
Trump does.
Yeah.
She's not any different, right? She's not us, right? She's just because of this, it she was still trying to stay in his favor even after the Epstein
Right.
survivors press conference. She was still claiming that she was loyal, that she was still with
Yeah.
him and pushing the America First agenda. And now she's saying there's a difference between MAGA and America First. And
Mm-hmm.
shut up. She if she ever got her pardon, she would be still, comfortably snuggled up there in his alimentary canal right next to Mike Johnson. So
Yeah.
this is about being opportunistic. She could not care any less about democracy. She cares about her bank account just like all of them. So she's getting out while the getting is good. She's retiring when she can get her pension. The other Republicans, there's going to be more of a MAGA exit from Congress. It's but what she's doing, she's an example of the worst of the worst, right? So she has she has multiple faces because she's
Mm-hmm.
threatening to read the names of the Epstein from the Epstein files on the House floor, right? She's
Yeah.
threatening to read all of the people who have participated because
Can I?
she's seen it. If
Okay.
Bill Clinton was in there, don't you think she would have done something already?
Well, that's okay.
Don't you think there was huge Democrats in there or someone worse than Prince Andrew? She would have done it already.
Well, the problem.
Like that's where and
Here's
there's
why.
more
No,
to
I'll
it
tell you why.
than this.
I'll tell you why. Because the only situation where there's a witness to what happened if, let's say, Bill Clinton was involved in something, more than likely, because he didn't have Epstein didn't have control over Clinton while he was in office, and after he was in office, it was only to get to other people. So you don't. It's hard to blackmail people to say, introduce me to this person, so that I can do business with them. That doesn't quite work. I guess it could, but as a strategy, it's usually not what happens. You want to control the direct lines of power. So you give them favors that they like, which would mean access to women who are over the age of 18, who aren't getting you in trouble, but you like that kind of stuff. But the problem that Marjorie Taylor Greene has in terms of what you're talking about is that the only witness that isn't dead in the case of Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell, who's in jail right now, and the belief is you would say anything just verbatim to help Trump. The only witnesses to that if it happened indeed, is the girls that were involved, who more than likely in a lot of cases were sent back to Eastern Europe or moved on or are too afraid to come out, that kind of thing, which we haven't seen any, if they exist. I'm saying if they exist. The only other witness would be Donald Trump, because Donald Trump, as his running buddy, was an eyewitness to a lot of this stuff. Trump is a material witness to Epstein's compromise system and the stuff that happened. He was there was this thing about how Trump used to come to these kind of like orgy-ish things that Epstein would throw both at his house in New York and in West Palm Beach. And that Trump would just kind of wander around in a suit alone, fully clothed, while other people were kind of, having this bacchanal situation. Until he found somebody that he was interested in or something, he'd get blown and then run out the door. That was the story from Epstein's side. I think Michael Wolff wrote about that, I'm thinking, but
what you're saying is almost entirely true, but a piece of this puzzle that more people need to know about, because they don't, is that there are still Epstein henchmen still alive who witnessed these things and participated. And I know this because my Senator Ron Wyden is the ranking Democrat on Senate Finance and has been following the money for years, has been investigating the financial ties between Russian banks and American banks financing the Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking ring. Is basically like a money laundering enterprise that also moved young girls through the world and through these, these places, and were flown on his plane and were on the island. And we saw the videos and that photo with the chair and the masks on the wall. That, to me, when I saw that photo, it chilled me in a way that it's like unspeakable what you can. And it was some real like Ryan Murphy shit, it was some real American Horror Story, like the masks on the wall and knowing what possibly could have gone. All of it is fucking disgusting. But what's really even more abhorrent about all of this is that right now, the Treasury Department has its own set of Epstein files, and Scott Bessent won't give Senate Finance full access, not the Republicans and not the Democrats either. They're sitting there full of all of this financial information. If you don't want to believe that that Trump raped little girls or did all of that nasty because your brain doesn't want to believe that, you got to follow the money because that shit is beyond real. And all of it touches Trump because there are 4,725 wire transfers that the Trump administration declined to investigate. So they're aware of it. You can't say that they're not. And so focus on that. Focus on what is really real instead of the things that are getting, blown up because they're gross, they're titillating, they're sick, they're weird, they're twisted. The shit that Marjorie is talking about is valid and real.
Yeah.
But she's also complicit in helping cover up so much other shit too. So she's not absolved for doing this.
Yeah,
Nancy Mace is certainly not absolved either.
No.
Nancy Mace stood with the Epstein survivors and then immediately went back and stood with Trump.
Yeah.
So you really, and again, nobody should get a cookie or maybe a really scary looking participation trophy that looks like demons are dragging the earth down to hell.
Right.
Because one time they said one thing that we agree with. You want to agree with them on stuff that matters? Great. Do not absolve them of the other shit. Because
I don't think. Well, okay.
Go down
so let me address that.
Let
me address that in a way that I think the audience can start to absorb. That you do not have to accept a person to accept that person's true statements ever. You know what I mean? It shouldn't even have to come up as a piece of work or whatever. Somebody says that it's noon. If Hitler says it's noon, it's not an attack on what time of the day it is. And your ability to recognize what time it is. And the same thing is true in these circumstances. And in the case of like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is leaving and covering her ass or what have you, or just, she might just be leaving the blast site before shit hits the fan. She might have, in her position as a congressperson with the maggots that she's close to, recognized that there is a breaking point that's happening both in his polling and internally in the Republican Party, where they're like, this motherfucker, his brain is turning to jello. I've got Dr. Adam James on after you today, and he's been talking a lot about how, about Trump's brain turning to tapioca, my term, but still.
I mean, it's
right. So
falling
obvious.
asleep is just, I mean, where?
Well, okay.
Jesus Christ.
But let's stay on this for a second. There seems to be this thing when somebody turns on an issue that somehow the reaction is, but I'm not going to forgive them for the other stuff. And this is not about you. This is about I hear this conversation from everybody in this, because there's an idea that the person and the idea go hand in hand. And I would argue that just because someone and I have a point of agreement, most serial killers and I have a point of agreement about stoplights, because they want to get to their victim without being sideswiped by a car, and I don't want to kill someone on a bicycle. That does not mean there is a crisscross, and suddenly I'm like, does that mean I like, John Gacy? Right? You know what I mean? That's ridiculous. So we do this all the time to ourselves, and the same thing happened. Same thing happened during the government shutdown and the debate part of it. What ultimately happened when we stood back and just let the truth percolate, what happened was all sorts of Republicans, from Josh Hawley and all these other, Tom Cotton, I'm just going to name everybody in the Republican Party currently who looks like Ichabod Crane.
Sure. Right.
Yeah. They all started talking about, oh my God, snap. So many people, so many families, so many people, so many families rely on this government program. We can't, oh my God, we can't, like, motherfucker, welcome to sounding like a Democrat. We got you. Walk that shit back, motherfucker. The next time you go home to your district, explain to your maggot constituents whose heads are exploding because suddenly you're on the side of Snap, that there are actually a lot more members of your district or of your state, in the case of a senator, that are on Snap than there are dyed-in-the-wool maggots. And so the primary crowd versus the Snap benefit crowd in red states especially is 10-1 on the Snap side. And welcome to not being as popular as you think you are. So that's I think in large part what happened to Marjorie Taylor Greene, and what she's recognizing is that her wedge, the thing that put her over the top with whoever else Republican was running or any other candidate, was, yes, it's a Republican district, but I'm going to go after the cabal. So the non-voting, normal, rural voters who would vote in who just never vote. They're too busy prepping for the end of the world to vote, came out of the woodwork to vote for her and gave her a margin that made her look more powerful. Oh my God, she's got the standard Republican vote. And oh my God, she brought out this 8 to 10% of other voters that show her to be powerful, which is why she was able to raise money, because they looked at her statistic for her district and went, oh my God, they must love her. No, they're expecting a certain behavior from her. She was expecting to be able to carry it out, especially with the Epstein stuff. And that's all scuttled now. And what she's staring down the barrel of is, you could very well have a Democrat in that seat if she stays in there and another Republican is afraid to run against her because she's the Marjorie Taylor Greene and they don't have the name recognition for this. And they just have to and there's a big part right now in maggotdom on all these shows. I'm sure you've seen the crisscross of this, between, Candace Owens and Crowder and Fuentes and Ian Carroll and Beck and all these people. They're all infighting about shit. And a lot of it has to do with this, fool me once, you can't be fooled again. They have this fool me once feeling about Trump, Patel, Bondi, Bongholio, and arguably Besant and Nutlick. The affordability hoax, all that kind of stuff. So there is enough of those fuckers that are like, fuck this, I'm out, that it will directly affect the midterms no matter what they do, hence the redistricting fight.
Right. So, well, we've talked about this on previous shows, but MAGA will remain cult-like while the lies comfort them, but as soon as they start getting hurt by Trump's lies, that's when they're turning their backs.
Exactly.
And we're finding that out now because prices are up everywhere on everything. And for me personally, I don't know how much your Thanksgiving dinners cost out there in Sparks Land, Sparklers, but I made 3 side dishes and bought some other stuff, and it was $75 for 2 bags of groceries in Portland. And that's way higher than what I spent last year. I don't know about it. Prices are higher everywhere.
Yep.
And that's what is always going to hurt MAGA the most. Your healthcare premiums tripling, your SNAP benefits being taken away from you for a month and a half or whatever it was. So I don't know if I said this on this show or not, but I spent 4 hours one day while the government was shut down going through every single state and finding out how many of their constituents were on SNAP. And then I tweeted every screenshot and tagged all of the Republicans who represented that state. So, and it's helpful when you have those statistics because numbers don't have feelings and they aren't political. They're just numbers. And so you could say to a Mike Johnson and a Clay Higgins, there are 850,000 people in Louisiana on SNAP and they don't care about this game you're playing with the Epstein files. They care about feeding their families. For me, it was specific for Representative Cliff Bentz. He's the Republican representing Oregon's 2nd District. So I tweeted him and said there are 757,000 Oregonians on SNAP. And what do you tell them? What do you tell your constituents? Why are the Epstein files more important than my next meal? Which is basically the whole line of questioning around that. And you continue to frame it like that. MAGA people got to eat. MAGA people need a roof over their heads. MAGA people got to go to the doctor. MAGA people got to put gas in the car. What they're learning is that this wasn't only going to hurt the libs. You can't own the libs when you can't even own a home anymore because of housing prices and everything else going up. And so it is the finding out that we have been predicting for a while, and all of it is coming from all different directions. His ratings are historically low. Even with his own voting base. He is now not going to build a ballroom. He's just going to leave the destruction and the detritus because, oh no, you can't build things for the White House with grifted illegal donations, and he's being sued over that. Everything he does fails. Everything Trump touches dies. MAGA is learning this only now. And so the Republican exodus, they're going to try to get out before the next impeachment can happen, so that they're not all caught up in it. Are they going to get prosecuted after the fact? Probably not. But it is really time for all of the truth and for us to be louder and louder because they are so desperate and so scared. And this is when they're the most dangerous. Trump is cornered. He's scared. He's dying in front of us, sundowning on the daily. His circadian rhythms are fully fucked up when it comes to dementia. I'm sure your guest who's following me will be able to talk about this. There's several accounts that I follow on Instagram. There's one was like a caregiver for people with dementia, and he makes these videos about dementia and behavior regarding dementia and signs of dementia. One of them is your circadian rhythms get all switched around. And that's why he's up all night rage tweeting 150 posts a night.
Yeah.
And why he's falling asleep during the day. Up is down, down is up, day is night, night is day. He didn't know where he is. That's why they had to put the sign on the West Wing on the wall. So Paw knows which room to go in his memory care facility. So they're all seeing it. There's no hiding it anymore.
Right.
And so that's why the truth about what's happening matters, but it is also really, really, really important for whoever's still left in the media.
Right.
I don't care what he says. I don't care what he does. You need to be pushing back. There's a meme that's circulating right now, and it's not true, but it's a quote attributed to Megan Casella, who is the woman the journalist from CNBC who originally asked Trump about Taco.
Yes.
And the Wall Street.
Right.
And that embarrassed him, and it stuck, and he doesn't like it. There's a meme circulating attributing a quote to her saying to him that she doesn't ask for permission. She asks questions not for permission. Now, it turns out that's not it may or may not be true. I've seen videos of people talking about it, but I have not been able to find footage of it. So what I'm doing now is I'm using it as a teaching moment, a learning moment for both our side and the other side. I know that they can't be taught, but it is a lesson. There's a lesson as a dual lesson here is, first of all, this is how MAGA operates. They put something out in the world and they demand that it's true.
Right.
Until they can be proven otherwise.
Yeah.
For me, in this particular situation, my pinned tweet now says, okay, so people are saying this isn't true. This isn't but it should be. This should be what all the media should be doing. So let's keep sharing this so that it is wish fulfillment. Wish fulfillment of you're in front of him, make him answer a fucking question. If he bullies you, push back. The man is a doddering, senile old coot. Knock him over with the truth. I don't give a shit anymore. We have to stop worrying about someone's going to say something mean. Oh, no. Big fucking deal. Have a spine. He is so in the wrong in so many ways on so many different things. You can barrage him with it. He hates all of it. Weaken him with the truth. That's what we should have been doing all along. If I had a job right now in the media, if anybody was, and by the way, it's been 2 months since my podcast was canceled and I've not been able to get another job in the media. No one's paying me to tell the truth. I'm doing it all on my own. I'll keep doing it. Because that's what matters to me, whether I'm being paid to tell the truth or not, whether, I'm scraping by with, whatever help I can get from people, whether you sign up for the Substack. Like, I don't want to bet people, your audience doesn't like that I talk about my book or talk about Substack or talk about how hard it is to make a living as an independent, truthful voice. Or
well, that's because they watch me. Well, but that's because they watch me do it every day. Because I'm not in a network. I'm not on, Midas or any of these others. And I've always said that this thing is like, doing the show has been like building a race car during the race, as you push it down the track. It's just always how you do it.
In the rain.
Oh, yes.
In
always
the rain
improving.
going backward downhill.
Always. I mean, I don't even know. I don't even have to exaggerate the reality of it. It's like running as a jogger next to, F1s, which would be your, legacy media and the big networks online, and running to catch up with and compete with them in the crowd and then get ahead of the pack and then stand out because of your value and all that kind of stuff. And that's just what I've been trying to do the entirety of this time. And that's, I think, singularly why this went from like a hobby to a thing, I would say. Let me address something though in this clip, because I've had this up a little bit and this is Trump's.
Yes, you have.
This is Trump's statement about Marjorie Taylor Greene, where you'll recall he said something about grass turns brown when it's dying or something like that. And so anyways, the next version of it is The only reason Marjorie Trader Brown, Greene turns brown under stress, which is weird. Like, that's because it doesn't actually die. One of the things that anybody who owns a golf course will know is that when the grass turns brown, it's not actually dying. The grass is still alive. It's the leaves of the grass, above the ground that die, and then the seeds are still there, and it grows again next season. It's out of season, it turns brown. Or if it's too hot or some shit like that. He's just fucking dumb. Anyways, went bad. The only reason she went bad is that she was jilted by the president of the United States, which is of course a dating reference.
That's a sick. Yeah, that's gross.
Yeah, certainly not the first time she's been jilted, which I think is.
Ooh.
And I also think, didn't she fuck around on her husband and basically cuck him and then leave? And I don't know that it was.
Oh, she sure did. She fucked around with all the guys at her gym and her tantric sex guru.
Yeah, I think she did the jilting, right? She was not the jiltee, she was the jilter.
And who knows? Well, and she also, but maybe he's referring to, maybe she came on to him and he rejected her, or she came on to someone else in MAGA at a party and he found out about it, or maybe
drunk at Mar-a-Lago and.
Maybe she said to Matt Gaetz, "Hey, try a woman who's over 16 for a change," or who fucking knows? They're all so fucking disgusting. Also, Trump is delusional and doesn't know what words mean.
There is that. Okay, so Trump wrote too much work, not enough time, and her ideas are now really bad. Okay, first of all, her ideas politically that he might disagree with in theory are the same as Mamdani's in terms of people need help because prices are up. Honestly, they're very much in the same fucking ballpark. There's an overlap especially in the far right maggotdom, as they come to realize that blue states pay their fucking electric bill, that something's got to be done, or their state will collapse. They won't have anything they'll have a bunch of shit they can't sell because they don't have anybody to sell it to. And they know this, and they need help to do this, and they're always looking for a government handout to do it. And so there's this overlap of like Trump starting to warm up to this idea. So it's where it comes from. So what he means by, the only thing I can think of that her ideas now are really bad is that the Epstein files need to come out. Is that she's siding with Massey that there needs to be this, this unexpurgated release of these things. So the next part was, anyways, this part of it is not going away. And there is there's a big fight going on in the allegedly America First crowd, where there's obvious bifurcations in it, like Tucker Carlson recently bought property in Qatar. We'll wait to see, but probably bought or was given property in Russia for his little show that he gave over there. So he holds Russian deeds to lands, but it doesn't apply over here, so he doesn't have to pay taxes on it or any of that shit or make people aware of it. But that's what he's doing. He's doing these propaganda deals with some of these groups. And there was a big bunch of right-wing influencers that went over, and then he went over afterward and went with his hand out, like, where's mine? And then bought a property there. There is a foreign countries first, or foreign enemies first balloon bubble about to burst in the right-wing magosphere, along with these people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who have feel suckered by the whole Epstein QAnon affair, are afraid. They're like, I'll only look so dumb seems to be the breaking point. But Trump wrote, she sort of reminds me of a rotten apple. Marjorie is not America First or MAGA because nobody could have changed her views so fast, and her new views are those of a very dumb person. Like, he's running out of words. This is, by the way, the guy who was got credit for coming up with Little Marco, which he didn't, and America First, which he didn't, and MAGA, which he didn't, or You're Fired, which he fucking didn't. That was, he didn't make up any of it.
Never has done anything. Nothing original. Nothing.
Right. And he called her, he called Leslie Stahl washed up and Trump hating, of course, because that's any woman who, can see him. It must be a hater.
He loves a scapegoat. He loves to scapegoat women as a distraction from what he's done, if he can't be a black woman, then any other woman will do.
Right.
So, and this is also a thing that I was going to touch on earlier, the way MAGA is behaving towards Marjorie. If Trump tweeted today, Marjorie and I made up, she's great, we love her, MAGA would be like, welcome back, Marjorie, we love you too. So
well,
this is such
I
a
agree. Wait.
situation.
I don't think so. I think that is a habitual belief on our side of the aisle that's predicated on this myth that he is this master of media, and that is a form of, I believe, complying in advance. Because the belief that they'll just follow him no matter what he does is one of the reasons why the people that aren't like us don't attack him in the media and that kind of stuff, because there's this illusion of an impenetrable wall. What's the fucking point? We know this side hates him and they're never going to like him, and we know this side loves him and is never going to change. Well, the reality is that side that likes him is changing right now. They're by a lot. His popularity numbers amongst them, their outrage amongst themselves. There's a shit ton of MAGA Civil War talk because of him, because of shit. Like he said after that letter came out, I don't need your fucking support. Basically, you're stupid. I don't care if you voted for me. If you want these Epstein files, you're a traitor to America or something. Like, he reacted that way. And those people, which allegedly, according to the mythology that we've all been, spoon-fed for the last fucking decade, is that, well, it won't matter, because once he says that, all bets are off and everybody gets back in line. Well, they fucking didn't. They did not. And they've been out of line ever since. And they're starting to scatter, and they're starting to form little groups. And in that scattering in little groups, there's some weird shit happening. Like, Nick Fuentes and other talking about why the government should provide health care. Like, that's so hilarious. If you hold it up to MAGA likes him, and no matter what he does, they'll fucking, if the only source of oxygen comes via his farts, they will take it.
Yeah.
And it's not true. It is no longer true. The other thing, too, I would like to say is when it comes to Trump and attacking women, there's a regular thing about, will Trump attack, women, he'll like any woman who goes against him or is insufficiently loyal or whatever, he's going to attack them. Well, there are a couple of women he never goes after. He'll dismiss some women. He'll bring them up and then never kind of like dance around it. He'll suck up to them. As much as they're sexually ingratiating to him, he will favor them and then not favor them. Laura Loomer being the main one, who allegedly, during the campaign, told several people that she gave him the fellatio of his life. And again, allegedly. And that's why he keeps her around. And she did it on purpose to lock him in, whatever. Yeah, hideous. It may not be true. It may be an apocryphal story. But it may the irony is, if it was spread apocryphally, if it was a lie that was spread, it was spread by Republicans trying to attack Laura Loomer. That's the irony. It wasn't Democrats that made that story up. Okay. But there are 4 particular women that I would like to bring up that Donald Trump never seems to go after, never seems to bring up, that are very important and germane to the stories that we're all dealing with right now.
Okay. I'm going to try to guess them in my head before you say them.
Nadia Marchenko, Adriana Ross, Leslie Groff, and I think the most famous is Sarah Kellen. Sarah Kellen. These are the 4 women that were named in Suits that were the second in line to Ghislaine Maxwell and were around just as much as she was. Beyond wishing Ghislaine Maxwell well, he will never allow for the utterance of the name Sarah Kellen, Leslie Groff, Adriana Ross, and Marchenko, Nadia Marchenko.
That's interesting.
And there are 3 others, by the way.
Yeah.
I have them listed here. The 3 others. Kimberly Espinoza, Rosalind Fontanilla, and the Farmer girls, Maria and Annie Farmer, who probably are the second most well-known because they've been brought up a lot recently. And they were the ones who reported that they what it was going on. They told on him, but they were also working for him. He was like, this is when he was like recruiting, local like poor white trash to do his dirty work for him. That's what you do in those areas of the world. Again, by the way, if Trump kicked Epstein out because he went after the daughter of one of his rich friends, fuck him, because he was totally fine with him going after the poor kids and the high schools in the area. It didn't bother him one bit. So that story, even though it has fallen apart amongst them, anytime Glenn Beck would throw that around, it would piss me off. But Sarah Kellen, now that, this is why Ghislaine Maxwell was able to be charged and put in jail in the first place, it's because a judge said that idea that co-conspirators could not be charged and no one would go after from that sweetheart deal didn't mean that applied to other states. Florida still couldn't go after Ghislaine Maxwell because that thing held, but New York could go after her, and the federal government could go after her. It did not hold the federal government, even though it was a federal seat that did it. So she got charged and she went to jail under the Biden administration, and she stayed alive in prison. So if at some point she wants to spill the beans, she's still alive to do it. She didn't accidentally slip and fall on a bar of soap and end up strangled. So
right.
The other thing is that change in law that allowed her to be prosecuted allows Sarah Kellen to be prosecuted, allows Leslie Groff to be prosecuted, and the rest of them.
Right.
And that is going to be the next phase, I think, is that a Democrat, whether it's Ron Wyden or somebody else, needs to subpoena Sarah Kellen. That has to be... All right, well,
the next time I get together with Ron loves me, by the way.
I can't see why not.
Ron Wyden is a mensch.
Yeah.
And he has the most wonderful people working for him.
Yeah. And
we had a nosh last month. We got together, we had a nosh. We did some talking, we did some discussing of things. It's an evolving, eternally growing discussion. But two things I want people to know about Ron Wyden before we wrap. Number one, Ron Wyden wants Benjamin Netanyahu removed from office. Mm-hmm. I just want people to know that, because I get a lot of shit,
me too,
because I support him, and there's no and don't. And numero dos is something I learned, is that just AIPAC is not happy with Ron Wyden right now. They're very not happy because he's not listening to them.
Yeah.
So I can't make someone not take money, but what I can say is I'm glad you're not listening to them. Mm-hmm. So Ron Wyden will not stop with this Epstein Files thing.
Right.
Especially because he's following the money. And because he is focused on on things that are real and less salacious, those things are not getting the same level of attention. And it's still weird to me that more people don't know about Treasury's own Epstein Files. And it's also weird to me that nobody asks Scott Bessent, why would you stay loyal to Donald Trump when he doesn't think your marriage to a man is real? Mm-hmm. And also, why are you helping him why are you protecting him? He raped children. It's also been posited that he raped little boys as well as little girls, and Scott Bessent has 2 sons. So, none of it makes sense. It's all of that disconnect. But what people can count on is that Democrats are not going to give up on this, regardless of whether they're in the majority or not. There's going to be action on this, and it's not going to stop with the release that's coming out on the 19th. There will be more after that. There will be the stuff from what they have at Treasury. Then there's, what does Putin have? What does, there's more and more and more. So Kash Patel could sit down and try to redact all of them himself with the biggest, fattest Sharpie. There's plenty of shit that they can't hide because it's going to come out. And so as we move forward through the next week, just remember everything, like the Venezuelan stuff, the Caribbean stuff. It's awful. It's impeachable, all of that. But again, another distraction from Epstein. They don't care who dies. They don't care who's threatened. They don't care about violence. They don't care about the truth. They care about protecting Trump. So just, one of the things that I saw last week, our compadre Stephanie Miller was on Fox. And regardless of what she was asked, her answer was, well, what's interesting about that is that Donald Trump is all over the Epstein files.
Right.
I'd like to see... Right. And so one of the things that my senator and I spoke about was more Democratic surrogates on more different kinds of platforms always telling the truth. As
Right.
long as there's a Scott Jennings on CNN, there should be a Democratic version of a Scott Jennings, which is like, I'm going to be louder than you, but with the truth. And so that's something that Democrats are going to need to focus on. And next week, when I'm back with you, we can maybe talk about strategizing and whatnot. But for 2026, unifying messages will be easy to come by because MAGA keeps handing them to us. So I want people to remember that Epstein is going to be a gift that keeps on giving to Democrats, as well as multiple other things. So anyway, I'm glad you're back with me, and I'm glad I'm back with you. And let's not make it another month before I come back. Let's make it just another week.
I insist. That would be
shall
lovely.
we?
So tell next time you see Ron Wyden or you talk to anybody from his team, tell them they need to subpoena Sarah Kellen, and they've got to do it. She could speak if they want to talk to her behind closed doors first or whatever. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But they need they need to let people know they are subpoenaing him or subpoenaing her or attempting to if the Republicans try to stop them.
All right. Well, someone in the chat just said, "Yes, Tara, we know you do some disgusting things. Sorry, you said you discussed some."
No, you misspoke. Whatever. You said disgusting instead of discussing. It's okay. They're joking. They're kidding.
Maybe I was also saying disgusting. I don't know. Whatever. I don't know.
You said you were discussing things with Ron Wyden. That was the
did I?
I'm
sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't.
They're just kidding around.
But anyway,
I do not have a hostile chat. This is the thing. You spend too much time on shitter, and it affects how you read my chat.
I saw it. That's the last thing I saw. Sorry. Okay, thank you.
It does.
And
it's okay.
I'll see you guys on places where I am, but particularly Substack, please.
Right. Excellent.
And also someone in the chat asked about my book, and an agent is reading it right now.
Great. Fingers crossed. Let's do this.
That's one good thing I'm working on. Beautiful. I don't want to tell anybody else about the other good things I'm working on. I don't want to make a Kanahura. But anyway, Hanukkah's next week, so
Happy Hanukkah.
We'll celebrate that, and I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.
Awesome.
Be good to each other.
There she goes. Ladies and gentlemen, the Tara Dublin, who does indeed rock. Author of The Sound of Settling. Go to taradublinrocks.com to get her book.